Just a few months ago, I was planning my wedding with Brett, the man I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. Now, I'm living in my best friend Angela's spare bedroom, endlessly scrolling through apartment listings, trying to stitch together the life I thought I had. Brett and I met in 2021. Within 6 months, we were inseparable. And after a year and a half, we moved in together. When Brett first introduced me to his parents, his dad, Walt, seemed pleasant enough, if a bit quiet. Susan, on the other hand, spent the entire dinner quizzing me about my background and family connections, with a tight smile that never reached her eyes. I mentioned that my dad worked in construction and my mom was a school aide, and I noticed her expression sour slightly before she masked it. Brett brushed it off later, saying she was just protective and old-fashioned. His exact words were, "She comes from a family that values certain connections," but he assured me he didn't care about that stuff. I believed him because love makes you stupid sometimes. When Brett proposed last year during a weekend trip to a cute little B&B upstate, I was over the moon. We agreed on a medium-sized wedding, nothing extravagant, since we were both saving for a house down payment. The problem started almost immediately after we announced our engagement. Susan insisted on being involved in every single detail. At first, it seemed helpful. She had vendor connections and offered to coordinate since I worked long hours, but it quickly became clear she was taking over. The venue I loved was too shabby. The catering I wanted wasn't the kind of food served at their family event. The dress I fell in love with was a bit cheap looking, don't you think? Brett kept saying it was easier to just go along with her than fight her on everything. I reluctantly agreed to compromise on some things to keep the peace, but it felt like death by 1,000 cuts. Every decision taken away chipped at my excitement until wedding planning felt more like a chore than a celebration. The real turning point came during a dinner at their house a few months before the wedding. Susan had invited her friends Rita and Angela over, and I realized halfway through the evening that I was being paraded in front of them for approval. They exchanged glances whenever I spoke. At one point, Rita asked where I summered as a child. I laughed, thinking she was joking, and explained that our vacations were usually camping at the state park or visiting my grandma in Ohio. The table went silent. After dinner, while helping clean up, Susan cornered me in the kitchen. She started with casual talk about Brett's ex-girlfriend, Melissa, who came from an influential family with the Hamptons vacation home. Then she said she hoped I wouldn't hold Brett back. When I asked what exactly she meant, she dropped all pretense. She told me I wasn't from the right background to help Brett's future, that my lack of refinement would embarrass him in important circles, that I wouldn't know how to entertain properly or make the right connection. I was so shocked I couldn't respond at first. When I finally told her she was being incredibly rude, she just laughed a condescending little laugh and said my defensiveness proved her point. She said Brett deserved someone who could match his potential, not drag him down. I walked out and told Brett we needed to leave. In the car, I was shaking as I told him everything. I expected anger, outrage, something. Instead, he got quiet and said maybe I had misunderstood her tone. That night was our first major fight. Eventually, he admitted his mother had been expressing concerns for months. Apparently, she'd been filling his head with doubts about whether I would fit in with the future he imagined. And the worst part? He was listening to her. Over the next 2 weeks, things deteriorated fast. Brett became distant, stayed late at work, and brought up random concerns that never existed before, like whether our different backgrounds would cause issues raising kids, or if I'd feel out of place at his company events. Then came another dinner at Susan's. Brett said she wanted to apologize and practically